You ready? We'll cheers over there.
All right.
Let's go. Let's do this.
All right.
Fireside chat number 2. Cheers, Sal Ventre. Thanks for coming, my friend.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
It's good. It's a little toasty tonight for the fire, but
It is toasty. I like it like that.
keep the bugs away, hopefully.
For sure.
So, how long ago did we meet now?
Did we meet?
Yeah, how long ago did we meet?
I feel like we meet often. No, I don't know. Maybe a couple weeks.
No, how long ago did you and I meet each
Oh,
other?
meet? Did we meet?
Yeah.
I thought like. All right. I think it was 2018.
Yeah, 2018.
2018. So 3 years now.
It was like right after I bought my house. I think it was like 9 months after I bought my
Yeah.
house.
So I remember distinctly because a mutual friend of ours invited me to a backyard party in Spring Lake. About a year after I'd moved to Spring Lake, I wanted to meet people there, and he was like, "Hey, you should meet my buddy Ryan." And
I think that night
it was love at first sight.
your wife and I were rapping Biggie on the dance floor with all these Spring Lake people. And I was like,
think
I
so.
think I like these people.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, my wife was rapping Biggie. I think I spilled a drink on some lady. They were like, "Go back to Tom's River." No, that was good.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you. You know, like, I feel like guys like you and I connect because we really come from nothing. Not that our parents didn't work hard and, you know, provide us a roof over our head and clothes on our back, but we weren't given the silver spoon coming up. And I think you've done it a unique way, and I really want to pick your brain on, you know, how you got started and what drove you to be this business-minded person, and then how you landed in real estate, where you are today.
Okay.
So tell us your first business venture.
My first business venture. I was 8 years old. I was in 3rd grade. My cousin Charlie, I'll never forget it. So my growing up in Tom's River, my one cousins used to live very close by to me, Michael and Charlie. And Charlie was like my best friend growing up. We would always hang out. You know, I kind of looked up to him. He was like my older brother that I never had. And so growing up, I remember, so they grew up in a household where, you know, they always had like the newest toys and things, right? So, and me, I had divorced parents. This was on my mom's side, single mother. I was, you know, not like, listen, I got the things that I wanted, but I wasn't like spoiled to the fact of where like I had all the new toys and things, right? So Charlie did, and I'll never forget it. We were in 3rd grade, and his dad came home, and they had a CD burner. And so we were like, this is crazy. At the time, there was Napster. Remember Napster?
Yeah.
Napster, LimeWire. So we thought it was the craziest thing that you can download songs, put them all on this one CD, because everyone was listening to CDs at the time. And you could have this CD of like all your favorite songs. So literally at 8 years old in 3rd grade,
You started making mixtapes
I
with
said
the
to my
TR
cousin
kids.
Charlie, I'm like, we can sell these CDs. Like a light bulb popped off in my head. I'm like, we can sell these. I'm literally 3rd grade. So I never forget, I went to my classroom the next day, and I went around to all the kids in my class. And at the time, you were only in one class with like 28 kids. And I went to every single one of them, and I was like, write down your 10 favorite songs. I'm going to bring you a CD with all of them on one CD, and all it's going to cost you is $5, right? Just get your mom to give you $5. And so I got a lot of kids to do it, and we put these CDs in like tissues, literally. We didn't have CD cases, we had tissues, so we put a CD in a tissue, we wrote on it, and we gave it to the kids. That was my first business venture.
How much did you make?
I don't know, maybe like $30.
I thought you were going to tell me you had like some hot mixtapes with TR kids.
No.
And like sweatpants or something.
No, but it's funny, when I graduated high school, my one friend Anthony still had the CD from back then, and we played it like at our senior prom party. Yeah, it was great. It was fun.
So fast forward a few years, I know you and your father kind of went into business together, and you launched a yogurt shop.
Yes.
And that was in Tom's River, right?
No, that was actually in Bayville.
Bayville.
And I made a classic mistake that young entrepreneurs make. So, all right, so I went through college in West Virginia, and I studied business entrepreneurship. Always wanted to, so I never had a job, right? And well, I don't want to say that. I've always had a job, but I never had a traditional job where I was getting paid an hourly salary 9 to 5. It was always like commission based or like based on how much effort I put in. So in college, I was studied entrepreneurship, small business entrepreneurship, and a couple of guys that I lived with My senior year, we were in a class. I think it was like an assignment to come up with a business plan or something like that. And the two kids that were in my class happened to be from North Jersey. So naturally, being from North Jersey, they thought the boardwalk was like the coolest thing in the world. And I was like from like the boardwalk area, you know? So they were like, hey, let's open up a boardwalk stand. And at the time, my buddy Joey was like kind of like a line chef at one of the restaurants in West Virginia as a part-time job. So recently he had brought home these like honey roasted nuts, pecans, almonds, walnuts, all this shit. And everyone was going crazy for these fucking nuts. And so he was like, let's sell these nuts on the boardwalk. They sell them in New York. They sell them all over. Like, no one's selling nuts on the boardwalk. Let's be the nut guys. So I was like, fuck it, let's be the nut guys, you know? And so we all got personal loans from our parents. We found this location. We opened up a shop. And all three of us worked 7 days a week, every single day throughout the entire summer, had no days off, no holidays, no nothing. We would rotate morning, afternoons, and nights, but all three of us worked 7 days a week. There was no days off for any of us. And it was tough, you know, naturally in the middle of it, we started fighting and there's issues.
Of course.
And we weren't as profitable as we had projected to be, you know. And so at the end of the summer, we were like, all right, we're going to go our separate ways. This was cool. Let's sell it. But I wanted to be in business for myself. And actually, right at the end of the summer, I took my brother, Nick, to see a movie. And at the movie theaters, there was this little...
What movie?
I don't remember the movie.
Nick, you don't know the movie?
Yeah, Nick's here, but I don't remember the movie. Anyway, when we were walking up to the movie, I saw that there was a yogurt place next to the movie theater with a line outside the door, wrapped around the corner, and I was like, what is this place? And so when we walked up, happened to be a frozen yogurt shop where you make your own yogurt, you put your own toppings on, you pay by the weight, yada yada. We all know it now, but back then, 12 years ago, people were like, what is this? And it was a craze. And so I remember coming back to my dad and saying, Dad, like, this is the business that we should start. Because my dad had mentioned like wanting to invest. And so I was like, this is the business we should start. It's a craze right now. It's you know, not a lot of money to get started. And my dad was kind of like, okay, you know, like, it could work, you know, get me some details. So I went all in, I researched it, I figured out what it would cost to get this up and running. I set up an appointment with actually the company that made the machines, that made the yogurt. We drove out to have like this seminar with the company. I convinced the bank to give me a small business loan, which at the time was nearly impossible.
It's awesome.
I listen.
What a learning lesson that was.
We got told no after no after no. One guy at this little mom and pop bank in Toms River was like, I think he like didn't think that I was serious, and he was like, if you put together a business plan and like bring it back to me, I'll hear you out. So I was like, fuck, I'm doing that.
Yeah.
So I put together this business plan, went back to him. He was like, all right, well, we still aren't unsure about this, this, and this. As soon as I got home, I figured all that out, went back to them. They almost like were forced to say like, okay, fine, like we'll give you the money. So they gave us some of the money. My dad put up a lot of the money, which I'm forever grateful for. We started a yogurt business. It was good, but it wasn't what I expected.
Yeah, you didn't realize, you know, where you wanted to get to with financial freedom, what type of revenues one yogurt shop would produce versus where you really wanted to go long term.
It's hard to make a lot of money selling a $3 to $5 product.
Yeah.
And so I said earlier, I made a classic mistake. The mistake that I still look back at, that I'm like, shit, I shouldn't have done that. I had never been in business for myself, and so when we were looking for a location, our goal, when I say me and my dad, our goal was, let's find the cheapest location we could find. Why would we want to spend money on a location? Now I know, looking back, in hindsight, location is everything. And had we had spent even double on the rent in a way better location, but you know what? I can't say that because maybe I wouldn't be in real estate if that was the case.
Yeah, well, that's why I was gonna, bring you back. So even back to the boardwalk, right? What did that little business teach you, right? And I love that because I was the same guy. I was like a mini GC in my neighborhood. I'd pull out, lumber out of someone's backyard. I'd cut grass, rake leaves, empty a pool, whatever it took to make money.
Yep.
I did that in my neighborhood. You were driven to get those toys that you didn't have. You were driven to get those things that you wanted as you got older. What did you learn from that boardwalk business?
The boardwalk?
Selling and slinging peanuts.
So 2 things, and I actually got lucky because, so the boardwalk place, I backed up to a pizzeria, and this guy Frank, I'll never forget him. This guy Frank owned the pizzeria for years, but he was an entrepreneur. He had owned multiple different types of businesses, and when I was there working, because we got to a point where, like I said, we hated each other so much from working together 7 days a week and working so much, and we didn't want to hire help. We couldn't afford to hire help. That it was like, all right, you work in the morning, I'll work in the afternoon, I'll work at night. So there's only one of us there. When I was there, I used to pick Frank's brain all the time, and I used to just ask him questions, and he kind of took a liking to me. And Frank was the type of guy that he slaved over the pizzeria, but he was like, he had owned businesses.
He was experienced. He had wisdom.
But he's like a half of entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Like he had owned businesses. A lot of them went under, but he's always like reaching for the next thing. He never gave up. You know what I mean? He's always got the pizzeria going. And I remember during the summer, he like took a liking to me, and we started bullshitting a lot. And he was like, "Listen," he's like, "I'm thinking about buying this property in Asbury. I need you to go check it out for me, do this." So like, I felt like, oh my God, like I'm his guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Frank was like sending me on errands to go look at properties and like all this stuff. And I was like, this is great. And at the same time, simultaneously, he told me to read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, great book.
The most cliche book that anyone's ever heard of in business. Everyone's probably heard of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but I will say it definitely changed my life. After reading it and reading it 2 or 3 times, I wanted to be involved in real estate. Nothing to do with being a real estate agent, but from reading the book and working with Frank a little bit, I was like, damn, I really want to be in business. I want to be a shaker and mover like this guy, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I want to have businesses. I don't know, to me it was just always...
So meeting Frank on the boardwalk gave you that spark to start thinking about that next path you wanted to run down.
I guess so.
Give Frank some credit, dude. Is Frank still there?
Frank is not still there, but I have ran into Frank here and there, yeah.
Did you sell him a property?
I have not, no, I should.
So, jumping back to the yogurt place now.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to touch on the boardwalk because that's cool, young people hustling like that.
Yeah.
You got into the yogurt business. Quickly, what's 2 main things that you learned from there that was a tough loss? Because a lot of times, everybody on social media is talking about their planes, their Lambos.
The biggest thing that I learned from the yogurt business was don't work in your business, work on your business.
I love that.
So as when I started the yogurt business, and this was huge for me. When I started the yogurt business, I was a very small thinker. I was young, I had no experience, and for me it was, hey, let me keep my costs as low as I possibly can, which meant that I worked around the clock. 24/7.
Deductive thinking.
Open to close, 7 days a week, nights, weekends, holidays. I was the main guy on the floor servicing clients, right? But what that hurt me in, and what I realize now, I'm mature enough to see it, I was so focused on the day-to-day working in my business, ringing up people and cashing them out and filling up inventory, that I never spent a second working on my business to grow it and to market it and to get new clients and to do better. And by the end of the day, I was exhausted. I had no energy to work on my business because literally I would open up at 8 a.m., 7:30 sometimes, and not close until midnight. So from 7:30 to midnight, I was non-stop dealing with clients.
It's easy to become trapped in your own business and be the guy that's doing everything.
And you don't want to work on your business at that point. And so...
There was no time. What was the second thing you learned? Most important thing.
Second most important thing I learned, that location is everything. In retail, anyway. Location's everything.
Yeah, that's it. Listen, as you know that very well now, being in real estate.
Yeah, man. Location. My business wasn't bad, but it would have been a totally different outcome had I not focused on the cheapest spot.
Had you gone back to the boardwalk next to Frank?
Possibly. Possibly.
So let's jump forward now. So yogurt business, I wouldn't say it's a failure. Learned a lot.
Learned a ton.
I hate to see.
Made some money.
Yeah, I think everybody should fail forward. I messed up so many times. My communication skills, understanding very complex things in my world. You're failing forward. You're learning. So you learned something. It wasn't a failure. What made you get into real estate?
So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and now it's the second year that I have the yogurt place. It's the winter, and it's kind of like an ice cream place, so winters are naturally slower than summer. And so I just finished reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was like, I'm gonna flip houses. That's what I want to do. I have no experience. I've never bought a house, never owned a house. I'm gonna flip houses, right? Yeah. So I said to my dad, who wasn't a fan of this idea at the time, but I'm like, hey, I'm gonna take 2 weeks off from the yogurt place. I'm gonna pay our employees, and I'm gonna get my real estate license. He was like, the fuck do you mean you're gonna get your real estate license? Like, we just invested in this business.
Yeah. How bad did your dad want to beat you up at that time?
Oh, yeah. He hated me at the time. And I was like, don't worry. I'm gonna get my real estate license. I'm gonna do this on the side. And yeah, he wanted to pull his hair
time
out.
out. I got to interrupt you. Don't lose your train of thought. But that's one thing that I observe about you, right? You're constantly on the gas pedal.
Yeah.
Right. It's I'm going to go flip houses, right? It doesn't matter that you have no experience whatsoever. It doesn't matter that you haven't swung a hammer ever. You were just going to go flip houses.
Yeah.
And
So,
you were driven to go do it.
for sure. So my favorite quote is that entrepreneurs jump off of the mountain cliff and figure out how to build a parachute on the way down. So that's me, right? So like, I say yes to everything. I take on every single opportunity that I can, and I figure it out afterwards. But anyway.
So you go into the business. I cut you off, so I'll bring you back. You go into the business. Your dad's pissed at you.
Dad's pissed, right?
Dad's
so
pissed.
I'm like, Dad, I'm gonna take 2 weeks off to get my real estate license. He said, the fuck do you mean? We just invested in this business. You can't take 2 weeks off. What are you talking about? Real estate? Like, we're all in. Like, now I'm gonna do this. So I did it, and luckily, you can call it luck, whatever. I don't even know. But a week after I got my real estate license, or the week I got my real estate license, I happened to be, it was the end of the summer. So I got licensed like the first week of September. So it was around this time, 10 years ago, end of August. I happened to be at a family barbecue, and my Uncle Bernard, who now is an agent that works for me, it's crazy how things roll for full circle.
And he's doing well.
And he's doing very well. But my Uncle Bernard had a family barbecue, and one of his high school friends from Hasbrook Heights, Ed McGee, was at the barbecue, and we were talking, and I said, hey, yeah, I'm taking my test this week. And he was like, oh, really? I want to buy a shore house. Maybe you can help me out. Ha, ha, ha. Well, the following week, I was like, hey, Ed, you want to go see houses?
Yeah, what's
right?
up?
You want to go see houses? I got my license, right? So I show this guy Ed houses in Ortley Beach. After only 2 times showing him houses, he makes an offer on a house. We get our offer accepted. At the time, it was like $600,000, which, I mean, it's like, that was like a $12,000 check. I was like, oh my God,
I'm loaded.
This is sick, you know?
What type of car did you buy the next week?
Mind you, I'm selling
bought
$3
a car.
yogurts at the time.
What did you
right?
buy? What did you buy the next week?
No,
I know you got
I
a
already
car.
had the Mercedes because that was crazy. But so I start showing Ed houses. He gets an offer accepted. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. Fast forward like 1 month. We're supposed to close on a Friday. Meanwhile, I'm still working the yogurt place. We're supposed to close on a Friday, and we get an email from the bank that's like, hey, we can't close until Monday. So at the time, it's my first deal ever. So I reach out to my broker. I'm like, dude, what's going on? He's like, don't worry. He's like, this is totally fine. It's like 3 days. We'll close on Monday. At the time, I had spent the money. It's gone, long gone, right?
Of course.
So I'm like, all right, 3 days. Monday, we're closing. That weekend, Hurricane Sandy hit, and the house was in Ortley Beach, 1 block from the beach. The house literally got washed away, completely gone. I started from zero, but fast forward a couple weeks later, a couple months later, I sold my first house, and that's what really got me addicted was the check. I'm money motivated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about like greed, but I see the freedom that it gives me and my family. So I'm super money motivated. So when I got that check, I was like, whoa, I need to do more of this.
Yeah, I need to do 2 more of these, 3 more of these a month.
And within 6 months, I've sold the yogurt place.
That's huge. So you go, you get your first sale. Hurricane Sandy set you back. I'm in a commission-based sales. I have some renewals now, but when you go and spend that money before you make it, that's a real hard lesson when it comes to business, isn't it?
Yeah, man. It's funny. So I have another story for that. So the first company that hired me was Crossroads Realty in Toms River, and I'll never forget this guy that the house got washed away. I never ended up collecting that commission check because the house was gone, right? So but we got the offer accepted like a week after I got licensed. So I remember going into the office and saying to the agents in the office at the time, now real estate was a different industry. Everyone was much, much older than me. At the time I was 23. Everyone was at least 50 plus. So I run into the office and I'm like, guys, I sold my first house. And I'll never forget, this one guy who's like a veteran in the office, did very well, probably been there for 40 years. He looked at me as like, you sold your first house? And I'm like, yeah, I sold my first house. He's like, bullshit. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, we made an offer yesterday, we got it accepted. He started cracking up in my face. He's like, you didn't sell shit.
Yeah, it ain't done yet.
He's like, you didn't sell shit.
Wait till that check hits your bank account.
He's like, don't count your money until it's closed. You didn't sell shit. So I walked away. I'm like, this guy's a dick, right? But
he was teaching you a lesson.
I didn't sell shit because I never got paid on that.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Sandy came and wiped your money right away.
Yeah, man.
You and a lot of other people.
Yeah.
So fast forward, you're working at, what was the broker at the time?
Crossroads.
Was there somebody there that was mentoring you? Were you just kinda...
Mike Little. Mike Little took me under his wing. He was the broker at the time.
He's still in the biz?
He's still in the biz. Now he owns a lot of Keller Williams offices.
All right.
I still look up to Mike. I think he's a phenomenal just entrepreneur, businessman, broker, owner, whatever. But he took me under his wing. He taught me a lot about the business. He really got me going and got me excited about the business. And then I met Chris Walsh. And that was it. Off to the races.
So fast forward now, you go into Remax, you meet this gentleman, Chris Walsh, and he takes you under his wing. You actually moved in with him for a short period of time, right?
So I was introduced to Chris I was working for Crossroads with Mike Little, my original mentor, original company. And like 6 months into it, I happened to go to a networking event where I was introduced to this gentleman, Joe Oz, who, come back full circle, Joe Oz is now an instrumental part of my business. But anyway, Joe Oz at the time was a newer agent. And he was like, hey man, you gotta meet my buddy. He is the Ari Gold of real estate.
Ari Gold, there we go.
And at the time, Entourage was huge.
Entourage
was huge. I was a young, influential kid. I was like, the Ari Gold of real estate. I gotta meet this guy.
I feel like you still have the TR Entourage that hang around you.
So I was like, I gotta meet this guy. So he set up a lunch with Chris Walsh. I met Chris. I was like, whoa, I gotta learn from this dude, you know? And I'll never forget it at the time.
And what did you see in Chris?
Well, it's funny. At the time, you mentioned the whole Mercedes thing, right? So, like, I had already stretched myself and bought this Mercedes. And I'll never forget when I first met Chris, one of the first things he said to me, he goes, that your Mercedes out there? And I was like, yeah. He's like, all right. So you want to get into real estate? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I got you.
Yeah, he liked that you were going after it.
I'm in, whatever you say, man, right?
So what was something about Chris that, you took to him?
He was relatable. He was around my age. He was the only person. So I grew up in Toms River in a very small thinking town geez, I don't want to say that. People are going to be like.
I was actually going to stop you real quick. It's funny to say because being from Brick, right? There's a lot of guys that I could sit there and, as myself, hate back on the town.
I'm not hating. I'm not hating.
But Toms River has produced a lot of studs. Frankie.
A lot of studs.
Frazier.
Sports.
Yourself, right?
Yeah,
Sports.
Yeah. For sure. So, all right. I just grew up in an environment where I wasn't surrounded by many people that made $1 million a year. I wasn't surrounded by people that were buying like crazy flat exotic cars and all this shit. Like, it just was very new to me.
Like G-Wagons?
Yeah, like G-Wagons. And so when I met Chris, I was like, oh my God, this is this guy that's very close to me in age. Like, I can relate to him. He wants to hang out with me. He's making $1 million a year. Like,
he's hustling.
I can be this, right? Like, and I was always the person, like, 100%, like, not just saying it, but I was always a person. I've always felt like no, you're not smarter than me. You're not like, maybe I'm not, maybe you like figured out a different opportunity or you, but like, you're not smarter, you're not this, you're not more talented.
Maybe they were just in the right place, right time.
Right, and so when I saw Chris, I was like, here's a guy that, you're not smarter than me, you don't have more connections than me, you're not more educated, you're not this, but you figured it out, so I want to learn from you. Yeah. And I was just very attracted to that.
And he was with Remax,
yeah.
Right?
He was the broker owner of Remax at the time.
So, tell me quickly, over the next 5 years, what transpired in the sense of your production, right? Every broker owner has a production leaderboard, right? You guys all get these awards I see in real estate that come out on social media.
Yep.
What did you do over the next 3 years in that office in a sense of rank and production?
My first year, I was terrible. My second year, I was like, just above terrible. And then I met with Chris, and I was like, dude, I don't know that this is for me.
It's always that come to Jesus conversation.
I was like, I don't know if this is for me. Maybe I should quit. I don't know. At the time, I had a friend that was like, hey, I can get you into Wall Street, like into the stock market and selling. And I did take a day that I went into Wall Street for the day, and I sat on a stock trading floor, and like people were, and I was just like, geez, is this what I'm gonna do? And this was 2-3 years into real estate, and I was like,
how old were you?
At the time, 25 or 26. And I was like, maybe this is what I should do because I just don't have it. Like, real estate isn't working for me. And I met with Chris, and we had a really good conversation. And what really changed was, I did the Wall Street day, and I was like, I don't know. I think I want to stick with real estate. But I knew that I wasn't gonna have a real estate closing for 2-3 months. Who knows when. So I contacted my mother, who at the time was working at TGI Fridays in Brick, and I was like, hey, I need to like bartend or something because I have $0. I don't know when I'm gonna have a closing. So she let me train for a day bartending in Brick, 3 years into me having my real estate license. And I never forget, I went there, I trained, I was there for like 3 hours, and when I left, I said to myself, I am not doing this. I don't care what the fuck it takes. I am going to figure this real estate shit out. I will figure it out. And so the next day, I went to my car in the morning. This is a true story. I went to my car in the morning, and I called my mom, like, I'm not coming in to train. And instead of training...
How mad was your mom?
I think she understood. She wasn't mad at all.
Yeah, good.
And I will say, my mom's an angel in that sense. Like, my mom's the most understanding, just like best person, right?
Super sweet.
And so I was like, I can't do this. And she was like, I get it, honey. Whatever you want, right? Okay. So instead, for the day, I literally drove around in my car and I listened to motivational things on YouTube. So I listened to like Will Smith. Honestly, I listened to like random ass people. Will Smith has a really good motivational page, actually. I listened to all these random ass people, and I remember just like sitting in my car, like, I gotta fucking do this. You know?
Let's go.
And so the next day, I ended up knocking on doors. I knocked on a lot of lawyers, attorneys' offices. I knocked on just random doors, and I eventually got a deal. I got a deal that floated me to get to the next deal, that floated me to get to the next deal, that eventually opened up a door to where, okay, now I can
you're moving.
Survive.
Now you can market it.
And that was it, man. That was...
So let me take you real back, knocking on the doors, right?
Yeah.
That, in a sense, when you're trying to succeed in the business, because I cold called 150 people a day.
Yeah.
And it was rejection after rejection. That teaches you something in business. What did it teach you?
It humbled me, man.
Real quick.
It humbled me so quick. Yeah, because, like, people don't want to talk to you.
No.
And I'll never forget this. This was a very humbling situation. Because I've always been pretty confident, right? I've always, like, had confidence in myself that, like, I could do this. I'm... So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna knock on. So I lived in Red Bank at the time. Never forget this. I lived in Red Bank at the time, and I was at the top of Broad Street, and there was a ton of like attorney offices and different things, business professional offices, and I knocked all those offices, and I was like, hey, because I remember listening to a coach at the time say, if you can get in with like attorneys and things and get in with their clients,
Great center of influence.
Great center of influence. So I was a 24-year-old kid, had no experience, no nothing. I'm knocking on the doors of these attorneys' offices, and thinking back to it now, like I had this script in my head, and I was like, hi, you know, I know you guys don't know me, but I'm Sal Ventre. I'm with Remax, the office up the street. If you guys need like the top real estate agent in the area, an expert to handle your clients and give them, and I said this same line to all of these attorneys' offices, and most of them were nice about it. They were like, oh, you know, I'm sorry, someone's in,
it's
you know.
okay, bud.
But there was a few that like laughed at me when I said like the top
if
agent.
you're the top guy, why
they
why
laughed
you knocking
at
on
me
our
and they
door?
were like, nah, kid, we're good, you know. And they kind of just shoot me off. One guy gave me a shot who was a bankruptcy attorney, and I did like 2 or 3 deals with him, but one of the deals was pretty large, and it was like a $13,000-$14,000 check. So at the time, I was living very minimally. I was like, oh my God, I could live for like 3 months on this.
I'm good to go.
And that was kind of like the pivotal moment of, from that deal, there wasn't many times that I really had to look back at like, where's my next dollar gonna come from? But I will say, that deal didn't come until probably 8-9 months after I hit that point of like crying in my car, I may have to bartend at TGI Fridays.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of times, because of the social media world, we see all of these people that are having this crazy success, and a lot of us are impatient, myself included. Sometimes you got to put the work in for a year, 2, 3 years before you get the rewards from it.
I had my real estate license for 3 full years before I bartended at TGI Fridays. I was a realtor for 3 years. On the outside looking in on social media, people were like, oh, this kid's killing it. I was fucking broke. I sold my watch. My dad bought me a tag watch when I was 16 years old. At that time, when I took a shift bartending at Fridays, I had no money, to the point where I sold my watch. And it wasn't until last year that I bought that watch back, just because I was like, you know what, fuck you.
I remember that story.
Yeah, so, yeah, man, I was in real estate for 3 years. You don't think I was posting shit that like, hey, I'm the man?
Yeah,
of course I was, but I wasn't, you know?
Well, you got to fake it till you make it in some senses.
Yeah.
So, fast forward another couple years into Remax. You now obviously shoot up the ranks of Chris Walsh's team.
4 years, so 1 year after I had that talk with Chris, I was the #1 agent in the office.
And what was your production at the time for the realtors that are watching this?
I went from making about $50,000 a year to $320 in 1 year.
That's huge.
And it's been increasing since.
So you get to this $320,000 mark. You start to say, I see what this business takes to win, and I want to take this to the next level. What made you jump into wanting to be a broker yourself and running a team?
So for me, I've always loved teaching people and coaching people. Even when I was in grade school, literally, you know, it's really kind of like weird, but I've almost, and I'm gonna say this, and you're gonna be like, you're just strange, but I've almost known what I was gonna do since I was a very little kid. When I was in elementary school, I remember taking to like certain math problems and things. I was like, so I'm still this way to this day. If you start to explain something to me, within seconds, typically, I know what you're getting at, and it comes across rude to a lot of people. My wife thinks it's very rude, but I'll just be like, all right, just stop. I already know what you're saying. Stop. I get it. Boom, boom.
Yeah, your mind moves fast.
I get it. And so growing up in school, I was always that way, to where like when we were on a subject in school, as soon as they would start explaining something, I would get it, and I'd be like, all right, done. And I try to like help the next kid. Like, this is what they're trying to explain.
So time out real quick. So these are things that I try to work on in my business with my team. Is that something that you try to work on, or you want to get better at it, or do you still do that?
I do it all the time, and I think that's a huge strength of mine, that I cut out the like, so.
The fat.
Again.
You eat the meat, spit the bones.
Again, my wife thinks that I'm rude by doing this because she wants to have small talk and like, and that's fine, but I don't want to waste any time. For me, time is super precious and valuable, and it's like, if I already figured out what you're about to say, I don't need the extra 15 seconds of what you're saying. I got it, let's move on.
I get it, 100%, but let me hit you from another point of view, right? What if somebody just wants to talk to you and just have your time for 5 more minutes?
I have no problem with that. But if you're trying to explain something to me and I got it, I got it. I don't need any more.
Good,
right?
I got it. I got it. I totally get it.
So growing up, I was always that way. When a teacher or someone would explain a topic, I'd be like, oh, boom, got it. And then they would want to teach a whole class on it, and I'd be like, I don't want to hear about this. I already got it, right? And so I would try to teach other people. And I remember distinctively in middle school, one of my math classes, a teacher trying to teach something to a student that was next to me, and I said, "Do you mind if I say something real quick?" And I explained it a different way, and they were like, "Oh, this is exactly." And that's when I was like, you know what? I could teach people. I just know how to fucking explain things.
Yeah, sometimes you could take complex things and make it very simple, and it's
so
much
for
more easy to
me,
understand.
growing a team in real estate came very, very natural because I wanted to teach people.
All right, so fast forward to the team.
Yeah.
Who'd you start with? Who was your first guy?
Mike Karch.
Mike Karch.
Mike
You
Karch.
grew up with Mike Karch.
Grew up with him. He was one of my best friends growing up.
Still a good friend.
Still one of my best friends. When I got into real estate, I was obviously a single agent. Fast forward 5-6 years, I was doing really well. Mike at the time was living in Florida, and growing up. So one of the things that I'm like fortunate about is growing up, we had like this core like 8 to 10 group of kids.
Yeah, you're TR guys, all the sweatpants on.
Yeah, all the sweatpants, yeah. And we still hang out together. So
And you still got the sweatpants on.
yeah. So Mike started dating a girl that we used to hang out with in high school. He was in Florida, she was in New Jersey. He was gonna move back to New Jersey. At the time, my business had gotten real busy, and he needed a job. So I was like, hey man, I need someone to help me with my business. At the time, I was just hiring an assistant. But Mike really caught on to the business very well, and now he's one of my top agents.
So that was what year in the business for you?
2017? I think it was 17.
How many years in was that?
I was 6 years into the business.
6 years into business. So that's pretty cool. You go from, Mom, I need a job, to, I'm never going to do this. I'm not going to bartend. I'm not going to dig a ditch. And I used to think the same way, like failure is not an option, to now you're going to grow a team. You bring on your first assistant. Fast forward that 3 more years. How big did you grow your team, and what was your production after 3 years of starting the team?
So it's been about 3.5, 4 years now. I went from me and Mike to now we have 27 full-time agents and 5 full-time staff.
Wow. And what was your production last year?
Last year we did about $65 million in gross sales and like 160 transactions.
That's amazing. So, Remax, now you guys have all jumped ship over to this eXp. Tell me a little bit about eXp. Tell me a little bit about why you think it's the future of real estate.
So prior to joining eXp or even opening my mind up to the company, I had already had conversations with my assistant Max as well as Mike and some people that are very influential in my team about branching outside of Remax, because the real estate industry really hasn't evolved or changed in a very long time, and there's obviously some challenges and flaws that we have faced. And so as we started to grow the team, I talked to my assistants about building our own company or doing different things. And ironically, it's funny how things come full circle, because I was gearing myself up to have the hard conversation with Chris Walsh, who mentored me into this business, made me, you can say, what I am, right? Mm-hmm. And I was gearing...
Yes and no.
Yes and no.
A lot of people claim they made Jay-Z. A lot of people claim they made
yes and no. Yes and no. But I was gearing up to have this hard conversation with him of like, hey man, I appreciate everything you've done, but I'm going to go in another direction. And just as I was about to say, hey, I want to talk to you, he reached out to me and he was like, hey, I want to talk to you about this business opportunity. So I was like, all right, let me put this on hold. Let me hear him out before I have this conversation with him and break the bad news. And he beat me to it. He was like, hey, we're switching companies. We're going here. And I was like, whoa, dude, like,
Yeah, we're on the
I
same
was going to
page.
come to you about switching companies, but it wasn't eXp at all. And when he first said eXp, I was like, ooh, eXp, like, and I said that because I'd never been properly explained, like, what the company was all about. All I heard was like, it's a cloud-based brokerage where you don't need an office. And I'm like, fuck.
So give me 3 to 5 bullet points of what eXp is about in your words.
Freedom, growth, and culture. The culture is second to none. So I came from a RE/MAX office that what most people don't understand is that RE/MAX is a franchise and every single office is individually owned and operated, which means that the RE/MAX office here and the RE/MAX office a mile down the road is competing with each other. They're not in the same business.
It's kind of stupid.
It is kind of stupid. So the culture of eXp is that we are all one giant company. There is no individual offices, and because of the revenue share platform, we all, your success is my success. And so the people above me in the company are doing everything in their power to see me be as successful as possible and make as much money as possible, because the more successful that I am, the more successful that they are.
Okay, so let me stop you right there. So a lot of people I've heard, the negative things of eXp is this is a multi-level marketing, this
Sure.
is an R-bond, right?
Sure.
And what I want to help people understand is that every business is a pyramid. There's a guy who's a CEO. There's a guy who's a CFO, the guy who's the CCO,
Sure.
the guy who is the SVP, the ESVP, right? Everything has ranks in every business. What is your answer to people who say those types of things?
So unfortunately, the people that say those types of things just are not educated into what a pyramid scheme or a multi-level marketing company is. And so a pyramid scheme is when there's one guy at the top that says, hey, we're not selling anything, we're not providing anything of value, but if you put in $10 and distribute it and get 10 people to put in $10, you'll get $1. That's a pyramid scheme. They're not providing any value. We're a multi-level marketing company, which is very legitimate. And basically all that means, the only thing that means is that our company is sharing in the revenues that they make with the members to continue to grow the company. And so there's still money left over for the guy at the top. Glenn Sanford is the CEO and founder of eXp Realty. He's a fucking billionaire at this point. You don't think that the majority of the money is going to Glenn? Of course it is. But he's saying, hey, why don't I take some of this money and distribute it to the guys below me so that they can help build my company? And you know what? They're going to eat off of that profit as well. And so that's what a multi-level marketing company is where the people that are responsible for bringing you to the company share in some of those revenues. A pyramid scheme is when there's no value added, no product, no service. They're just refunneling the money that comes in to the guy at the top. It's totally different.
I totally agree
This is just a very smart business plan to get the employees in the company wanting to grow your company. And that's what we're all about. And that's why it's become the greatest company in the world, is because the people that I hire as a RE/MAX office or an individual agency, the people that I would have I would have never even wanted to hire people because I had no benefit from it. But the people that came to the company underneath me, they were direct competition because I made no money no matter how much they did or what they did. So the more they did, they were taking from my plate, is how most people saw it. In this company now, if you come to the company underneath me, the better you do, the better I do.
Yeah, you're incentivized.
So it's amazing because the culture is we all want to see everyone do well. And that's a breath of fresh air that I've never seen.
So we were talking about a book prior to getting on.
Yeah.
Right? And you had said, Ryan, this book's great, you'd like it. This guy understood, I'm going to spend X amount of hours, which is a short amount of time each week, on these 10 or 15 different businesses.
Yeah.
Right? When you're in business, you're trying to sit on top of something and allow people to partake or be incentivized by the revenues that are coming in. And by what you just explained, I think that is exactly what you're doing with eXp.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It honestly is awesome. And you know, honestly too, as real estate agents, we get caught up in the commission, which can be great, but it's very short-sighted. So a lot of people don't plan for the future.
Yeah, it's career. It's not a transaction.
Which is where a guy like you can come in, but unfortunately, most real estate agents, they don't think like that because they get the money in, they spend it as quick as it comes in, and they don't think about their future. So fortunately, this company also helps bring in some other buckets, right?
So I love buckets.
Yeah,
right?
talk
We can't
about
talk
the
about
bucket.
buckets. Compliance
All
will
right.
come
Oh,
for me.
I'm sorry.
Compliance, I ain't worried. So where does Sal Ventre go from here? Don't sugarcoat it. What do you want to do, right? You're a guy who put the time in, walk and talk,
Sure.
playing bartender, buying Mercedes you couldn't afford, right? You got into this real estate game and you have taken it to the level
Sure.
that a lot of people probably don't understand the revenues that you're making now because you're making it through multiple companies. It's not just about real estate anymore. It's a lot of companies that's attached to
Sure.
your real estate
Yeah.
agency. What do you want to do?
I want to help people. I want to help people get to their goals through various different sources.
But why does that help you? Let's not even say helping other people. Why does that help you?
It just doesn't. It makes me feel good.
But besides feeling good, what does Sal really want out of his life? You want to be able to make X amount of dollars and do what with your family?
So for me, everything has come down to, so I had a son a year and a half ago, and what I've learned from that is that the most important thing to me is freedom. And so my entire goal and everything that I'm going to work towards for the rest of my living life is to have the most freedom that I can possibly have. So moving forward, I'm never going to do another thing that I don't want to do. I told you this earlier.
I love that.
I love helping people, and naturally I excelled as a real estate agent, so I want to help other people that want to do that are in real estate. But that's it, man. I'm going to dedicate my life towards helping agents get to where I am, helping people find financial freedom, and like I said, never doing a single thing that I don't want to do, whether that means work with a client that I don't enjoy working with that really crushes me, or get into a business that I don't want to do.
What if it's a Bayhead house through Jonesy, $8 million?
Well, 8's up there, but no, man, it's not worth it to me. And so I'll give you a really good example, and I don't know whether I should even talk about this on film or not, but
say it.
In one day, personal production, I put $4 million in a contract. So in real estate world, it's like $100,000 in commission. And 1 week later, I lost all of it in one day. It was ironic how it happened. And I wasn't bothered by it. And that's when I was like, you know what? Money is not controlling me anymore. My happiness is controlling me.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, you know what? Now, don't get me wrong. I need a particular income to continue the happiness. But it's way more about the happiness and the freedom for me than it is about the income. There was a time where I thought that I needed to make $100 million to be happy, or more than that, I don't know. But now it's like, all right, you know what? If I can make X and just kind of spend time with my family and my son and not miss his games and coach and do all that stuff and be there for my family and travel, that's all it's about.
So
man.
one of the last things, and this isn't me playing nicey nice with the wifeys, I think that your wife is also an amazing entrepreneur, and she's going to be on Fireside Chat soon, guys, just so you know. Lauren Ventre. How much of an inspiration is your wife? How much of a partner in your business is your wife? And how much has she helped you succeed to get to where you are?
I wouldn't even be close to the entrepreneur that I am without my wife. She inspires me majorly. So my wife, for anyone that doesn't know, is also an entrepreneur and a business owner. She has 25 plus people that works for her. She's traveling all over the globe all year long. So you can bet your ass that we have a little competitiveness going that I will not let my wife...
I think she's beating you.
I will not let my wife beat me. I will not let my wife beat me. So she motivates the shit out of me. She understands why I do the things that I do. She allows me the freedom to do the things that I do. I 1000% would not be the business owner and man that I am without my wife. I give her
Same for me.
so much credit, even though I don't say it often. I would not be here without her.
When I realized Lauren was a real deal, my sister-in-law Shannon was like, "How do you know Lauren D'Amelia?" And I'm like, "Who the hell is that?" And they're like, "Sal's wife." I'm like, "That's Lauren Ventre." She's like a famous makeup girl. And then we went to Cape Cod. We went to that bougie place. That young girl who was waiting on us was like, "Oh my God, Lauren D'Amelia."
It's funny.
I'm friends with a girl with a blue check mark. And I'm like,
she
what?
motivates me, and she also humbles me, because we go out to places and they're like, "Oh my God, you're Lauren D'Amelia, and you're Lauren D'Amelia's wife." It's like, yeah, that's me.
Husband.
Yeah, husband, whatever.
Well, listen, dude, I really appreciate you coming on. We could probably talk for another 2 hours, but no one's gonna want to listen to us. It's been great, dude.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Cheers again.
Cheers.
Thank you. And your story's great.
Sure.
Too much
Thanks, bro.
more success.
Yeah.
Cheers. And to the viewers, thanks for coming by.
To our live audience.
Yeah, live audience. Here we go. Kelly, Lauren, Nick, Evan. Thanks, guys. Come back for our next Fireside Chat. We have some really great people lined up. Have a great night. Cheers.